Good morning. Today our theme is about being deep in the current, called to deep hope. When I think of being deep in the current, I remember taking river rescue training. I remember squatting at the side of a river with a foot braced against a rock in front of me and a partner holding me from behind for extra support. I tossed a rope to someone needing rescue from the fast-moving water, and although we thought we were prepared, we had underestimated the strength of the current. I lost my stance and I was pulled in after the swimmer. I was dragged over the rocks, and I finished that day with a ripped dry suit, a limp, and a swollen knee that stayed with me for the next 2 weeks. Water on its own is powerful. We need water to live, but we know that even shallow standing water can result in death by drowning. Moving water is even more powerful. It can generate great amounts of electricity. It can help us travel quickly if we're going downstream, and it shapes landscapes. Over time, moving water can create deep canyons and cut ravines through rocks. Meanwhile, a flash flood can remove all vegetation from an area and completely alter the environment in only a few minutes. If you've ever been whitewater rafting, you have experienced the power of water. You have likely experienced some combination of exhilaration and nervousness, and depending on who you are, you might even admit to experience some fear. I know some people have more fear than others. Moving water can be exhilarating, but it's also terrifying. And in fact, one of the aims of a river rescue training is to instill a healthy dose of fear into people. It is not uncommon at these trainings to hear multiple stories of people dying on the river. The message is that we should be awestruck by this force of nature. We should not underestimate its power, and we should realize how small we are in comparison. The prophet Isaiah speaks of the ability of words to comfort the weary. The Israelites were in a time of despair. They were in exile and likely felt very small and insignificant in the world. They needed to be reminded of God's help and God's presence. They needed the energy of encouraging words and the reminder of God's strength to work as a type of current, helping them to keep moving forward when it would have been easy to give up. When Jesus rode into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, he was celebrated by the crowds. The energy of the crowds was a current of excitement and praise. And I wonder if Jesus was able to use this moment of celebration to fill himself up with energy that would then help sustain him through the trials ahead. How many times in the events of Holy Week to follow did he look back on this parade with a smile? Did the current of energy from Palm Sunday help him keep moving forward? The key to river travel is to be aware of what's coming up downstream, to have the ability to read the water, and to have the skills to adapt and react to what appears before you. Some of the most serious obstacles in a river are called strainers or sweepers. These are objects that allow the water to flow through but can trap other items like boats or people. An example of a strainer would be a log or a tree that falls across the surface of the water. And as a paddler or a swimmer in the water, your primary goal is to avoid getting anywhere close to this object, since once you get trapped, the steady current of the water will make it very challenging for you to escape. In short, if there is an obstacle on the right side of the river, you should go far left. If Jesus followed this line of thinking, knowing the hazards that waited for him in Jerusalem, he should have stayed far away. He should have avoided the Palm Sunday parade and gone around the strainer of his upcoming trials and crucifixion. However, I imagine Jesus' ride into Jerusalem as the part of the river where you get to sit back a little bit and relax and let the water move you forward while enjoying the scenery that goes by. Even knowing there was a major hazard downstream, Jesus was able to find the exhilaration of this day. And I imagine Jesus looking ahead with the knowledge of what is coming up, but still choosing to enjoy this moment, taking the time to allow both himself and others to celebrate. Now, if you can't avoid a sweeper or a strainer, there are still some options. There are a few techniques that a person with really quite good skills and commitment might use to maneuver over them. And if these techniques are not successful, you can hope that there are people nearby with the skills and equipment to be able to rescue you. As you come closer to an obstacle, it becomes more challenging to get by safely, but it's not yet impossible. As Jesus rides into Jerusalem and can see the crucifixion ahead of him, he still had time to outmaneuver his obstacle, his hazard. In choosing to ride into Jerusalem, however, Jesus went directly for the strainer. At this point, we might think that the journey to the cross was now inevitable. However, he could still have made a move during the events of Holy Week to save himself. As we know, he did not. And based on his life, I'd say we're not surprised. Jesus' life was full of moments when he made the decision. When he made the decision to help others rather than to help himself. Jesus' life was full of humility and greatness. Jesus ate with the people that others wanted to shun. He washed people's feet and he performed miracles. Jesus showed us a life lived from a place of love, justice, and commitment. From Philippians 2, we read, "Not once did Jesus consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. He made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant and being made in human likeness, and being found in human appearance. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross." But we're not there yet. On Palm Sunday, the crowd paraded Jesus as a celebrity. And Jesus seemed to recognize the importance of people seeing him as a king and having a reason to celebrate. At the same time, he made this parade better suit him by ensuring it was not about self-importance or greatness. He was not the important or royal figure who was hoping to inspire fear and awe through a grand military parade. Jesus made this event fit him and show his spirit of humility by riding in on a young donkey. Over and over again, through his life and death, Jesus made the decision to follow God's current and not to avoid hardship. Jesus showed us a deep hope that his life and death would be able to display for us the power of God and the power of love. Jesus had deep hope that others would be able to follow his example of love and justice, passion and healing. Every moment of his life kept him on the route to the cross.
This bread, drink this cup, come to me and never be hungry. Eat this bread, drink this cup, trust in me and you will not thirst. I am the bread of life, the true bread sent from the Father. Eat this bread, drink this cup, come to me and never be hungry. Eat this bread, drink this cup. Trust in me and you will not thirst. Your ancestors ate manna in the desert, but this is the bread come down from heaven. Eat this bread, drink this cup.
One afternoon, my cousin and I took a canoe from the boathouse in Saskatoon out on the river. Since we had planned an out and back paddle, we started out by going upstream so that we'd get the hard work done first. The high flow of the river combined with some strong winds made it hard work. And we came to a point where we were no longer even moving forward. For several minutes, we just paddled hard in order to remain in one place and tried not to lose any distance we had gained. We did not last long that day, and soon we decided we were not having fun and should turn around. Disappointedly, after paddling for about half an hour going upstream, our return trip to the boathouse downstream lasted less than 5 minutes. It did not feel like much of a reward for the amount of work we had put in. Sometimes the current is a huge help to us. Both emotionally and physically, it has the power to move us forward. But what happens when the current is not going in the direction that you want to go? Have there been times in your life when you feel like you are going against the current? Have you tried to live in the world but not of the world, only to end up feeling tired because it's a lot of hard work to go against the current? In what moments have you decided it is worth it to put in the effort of going against the flow? We cannot go against the current forever. It is exhausting. This is the reason that we all want to know people who are at least a little bit like us. It is important for us to have the energy of others around us, moving in a similar direction and helping us to move in the direction we want to go. And perhaps that's something that you get from church. Perhaps there's an energy or people here at church who inspire you to live and act in a certain way. And if so, I'd say don't treat this lightly. Enjoy this current. In the past year, I have been part of the discussions and the decision-making around the closing of Hanley Mennonite Church. Over the years, the energy of this church has ebbed and flowed, and it finally came to a point where the current seemed to have petered out. The last regular service will be held next week on Easter Sunday. And in these last few weeks, it feels a bit as if we are coming to the end of our run on the river. As we approach the takeout, there are mixed energies of celebration and a celebration of the desire, a celebration of the journey we've completed, and the energy of sadness that comes when you recognize that the journey has come to an end. Like Jesus, those at Hanley Mennonite Church parade into Palm Sunday, rejoicing over what has been done and enjoying the ability to be together even with the end in sight. We grieve, but not as those without hope, because we can rejoice that God's current continues to flow, and the current of the larger church continues to flow, even if our stream has come to an end. There is more life ahead, just as Jesus knew. While we are blessed by the people in our lives, sometimes people fail us. But God's steadfast love endures forever. We may miss it sometimes, but the steady current of God is always present in the world. When have you noticed the power of God moving you forward through life? The words of Isaiah 50 are a message to tired Israelites that God can be their strength and their energy to move them forwards. The reminder is that even if you're insulted or being struck, God is there to hold you. When you find yourself in God's current and you allow yourself to be carried, you can be re-energized. Some days when I see and hear about what is going on in the world, I want to respond by giving up. But when I lean into the deep hope and strength found in God, I can be strengthened and energized to see the possibilities for what can be. I can live into a vision of a world filled with peace and love. Where there is love, there is hope. Do not underestimate the power of this current. This current of hope can sustain the weary. These times of celebration can add exhilaration to life, even though they don't take away the hard times. There is no promise that the currents in which we travel will be free of obstacles. The promise is that God's current is always flowing through us and through the world. In a week, we will have a chance to celebrate Jesus' power over death. But today, the party is a chance to celebrate the life of Jesus. Today, we honor the humility and the commitment of Jesus to give himself over and over again, even in his power. Today, I invite you to enjoy this current of celebration. Let it re-energize you. Let it invigorate you. Let it hold you. Today, I invite you into the deep hope that God holds the world.